Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys checking out today's video and spending some time with me. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about bass fishing in and around the spawn. You know, right around the time when the fish are spawning or they're actually spawning. We're going to give you guys some tips and advice and sort of some of my opinions and some of my viewpoints on that today. Because at the time of filming this video, it's the latter part of March. Bass are either spawning or they're going to get ready to spawn over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we're going to get into that today's episode. Also, guys, before we get started, just a couple quick things you talk about every day on the channel here. Really appreciate you guys, your patience with it. Just like to invite everybody, anyone interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and just shoot me a private message. And also, I'd like to invite guys to check out all my links in the description, my Tackle Warehouse link, Solar Bat Sunglasses link, Fish the Moment, Lake Map Breakdown link, Throwback Jig link. All you guys that are using my links in the description, a big thank you from me and my family because we really appreciate the help there. Okay, spawn and bass fish. And the first thing I want to talk about with this is sort of my attitude about that. I'm a firm believer, if you guys have watched my videos, that I'm not a big fan about catching bass while they're bedding. I just think that we need to let the fish spawn. I mean, we need to let them spawn undisturbed. Anything that we can do to ensure, a good, strong, healthy spawn, it's better for everybody. It's better for, your fishing is going to be awesome, the next couple of years after that. So if you see bass spawning, I know it's fun to catch them off a bed. I mean, you see them and you see them eat the bait. Yeah, it's fun, but just try to resist that. I mean, if at all possible, just try to resist fishing for those bedding fish that you can see visually, especially if you're fun fishing. I mean, in a tournament, guys, I do not target visible spawning fish. I always try to look for off-colored water or some other type of pattern that's working. If in a tournament, if I'm fishing down a bank and I just happen to see a 4-pounder on a bed and I'm in a tournament, I don't like it, but I'll try to catch it simply because it's a tournament. But I would prefer that we didn't have tournaments during the spawn, just to keep that away from it. But so before I get into this, I just want to encourage everybody to try to leave those visible spawning fish alone. Because here's the thing about it: when the bass are bedding and you can see them visually nesting on a lake, you can still catch them in a lot of different ways, even in the same areas where you see them bedding at. And that's what I want to talk about in today's videos, is some alternatives to fishing for the visible sight fish. Okay, now let's just say, for example, let me throw one scenario out. Let's say we're fishing and we go into this big, nice, flat spawning type cove, and we're going down the bank, and every 30 or 40 feet, we see a bass on a bed. They're bedding on a bed, laying eggs or garden fry or whatever. When you see that, you can also catch fish deeper in those same areas without targeting those visual fish. One of my favorite ways to do it is if I go into a spawning cove where I see fish on the bed, I back out probably to 10 to 15 foot of water or so, and I'll throw a shaky head or maybe a light Carolina rig on the outside part of where they're bedding at, where I can't see anything. And I've caught a ton of fish doing that, including some good ones. Another way that you can do this is basically just going down the bank fishing when you're not bed fishing. And you do that by fishing things like a floating worm, a fluke, a wacky rig Cinco, something like that. Just go down the bank and just fan cast down the bank, because when there's some fish on the bed, there's also a lot of fish that are cruising in and out of those coves. They're cruising in and out. They're maybe looking to build beds. Maybe they don't want to, they're just scouting them. They're just in and out and in and out. Anytime that you can see bass bedding in a particular area, you also see bass cruising in those areas. And you can target those cruisers, again, with the floating worm and the fluke and all that type of deal. Also, another thing, we'll talk a little bit more about the floating worm. Every time that I've ever fished when the bass are spawning, that's usually the best time to fish a floating worm. Just go into those same type of areas, make long casts with those floating worms, and you're picking up those cruisers that are not actually bedding. So in essence, you're still able to catch a lot of fish while the fish are spawning without targeting those fish that are actually nesting, which is really nice. And there's also other options. It's like you can not all the bass bed at the same time. So you may have, say, for example, 50, 60% of the bass are bedding, say, in one particular time. There's another 30, 40% of the bass that are not spawning yet. They're still in the pre-spawn mode or they're done. So one of the things that you can do if you don't want to target spawning bass when most of the bass are spawning is go out on the main lake where the water's a little bit cooler and those fish will still be in the pre-spawn stage, and you can catch them on, the steeper rocky banks, the channel banks at the same time where some other ones are bedding there. So that's just a few tips, just a few broad generalizations, how I like to approach it, during that time of the year. But it's a fun time, guys. It's, when those fish are bedding, there's more fish up shallow than any other time of year that they're biting. So just try to be good conservationists and so make sure we'll have fish down the road a few years from now. So we'll talk later, guys. See you.